Hey, what's up? It's Swamp, back for the second part of the color tutorial. Okay, in this one, first what we're going to do is I'm going to show you how to fade between more than one color, and it's a pretty cool thing. You can use it for as many colors as you want. Actually, you just keep chaining it along together. So, alright, so first what we're going to need is a curved data source. Alright, I'm just going to lay this stuff out here. Okay, curved data source. Okay, and that's going to be red, green, and blue. Then we need a variable. 2 variables for each curved data source. A start and an end. Now what we'll do is do this. Touch that. Okay, so now it's going to have the start and the end. Just leave the duration at 60. Okay, so now what we need is 3 sets of these. Red, green, and blue. Okay, so now what we need is some set value events. I'm going to have 6 of those up here. 1, 2, 3. Alright. Now, each one of these is going to correspond to a variable. It's kind of how they match up. Center ones. Maybe this top one. So what it's going to be is we're going to set the beginning RGB number, and then we're going to set the destination RGB number, and then we're going to run the curved data sources, and then when it gets done, then you just switch to the next one. Alright, so now we're going to set up this impulse to go through these. Should have done this as I was doing it, but oh well. Alright, so set this impulse going on through all these set values, and so what it does is for the curved data sources, you have to set them to select the curved data sources, set them to reset when disabled. Okay, now we need some state events. So we'll grab an off event and an on event. Okay, so the off event is going to go to these curved data sources. The on event is going to do the same. Alright, and now we need a delay. Impulse delay filter. Okay, so now we go to the delay. Oops, sorry about that. I always seem to do that. Alright, so now from the set value event, we'll go to off to turn off the curved data sources. We'll go to on to turn on the curved data sources. And then we go to delay to wait for the curved data sources to be done. Okay, so now this is set to 60, I think. Yeah, these are set to 60. This one's set to 60. Sorry. Yeah. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a variable up here. And I'm going to make it be 255. Because I'm going to be using 255 throughout this whole thing, and so it's a lot easier just to have one variable here and just keep connecting to it instead of going through and trying to get the 255 this whole time, every time, because it takes a long time to get up to numbers and stuff. So okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to copy this. I'm going to actually group it and then copy it. So we'll group this set of tiles. So that's going to be the first, from the first number to the second number. This is going to be from the second number to the third number, and third number back to the first number. Okay, so our first number is going to be 25500. So let's select pick value object, and we're going to set that to 255 on the first set value event. 25500 is going to be the first one, and we're going to get a yellow, which is going to be 255. Sorry, it's grouped, so you got to select it with L1. 2550. So the RGB value of the beginning number is 25500. The end number is going to be 2552550. Now, to continue with that, we're going to have to make these two be 255. Sorry. Make these two be 255 to start with 255250, where we ended up here. We're going to reset the start and end on the curved data source. So we need to start with this to make it not jump. So we're going to go from 2550 to 00255, which is a blue. So I'm just using 255. These are, RGB values. You can use whatever numbers that you want to use. Now we need to start with blue here. And then we're going to go back to 25500. So we'll go here. Value would be, so we go back to 25500 is where we started at over here, 25500. Now from the delayed impulse, you just want to go to the set value of the next one to link the chains together. Oops. Goes there. Okay, and then from the delay, the last delay, then you go back to the beginning. Start back here. Now we need to start this, so I'm going to use a interval trigger. We're just going to have it have one interval, one impulse. So we'll set this down to 1, disable after 1 impulse, and start it right there. Now, what you need to do is you need to have your RGB values as one data source. So we're going to use a vector. We're going to set these values. Red is going to be this curved data source. Green is going to be this curved data source. And blue is going to be this curved data source. Alright, so now with this box, we'll take it, go to Material, pick Value Object, and we'll use that vector. Okay, so now let's test it and see what happens. Okay, so see, it goes from red to yellow to blue to red to yellow to blue. So it works really well. Okay, so if you want to add more colors, you just copy this whole section, just bring it over and add more colors. Just remember to go from the beginning of one color to the end of another color. So when you ended on this color 2552550, you need to start with 2552550. Alright, so that's how you do it, going from numbers that you picked. Next, I'm going to show you how to go from random numbers. Hey, what's up? It's Swamp. Okay, for the second one, what we're going to do is random colors. I'm going to have it pick random colors, and then it's going to fade to that random color, and then pick a new random color, and then fade to that random color. So, alright, so let's get started. Okay, so first what we need is bunch of different tiles, so I'm just going to lay them out and then I'll explain to you how they work. Start at the top. We need an interval trigger to power it. Now we're just going to build this as one color at a time and then just copy the whole thing over. So okay, so now in filters we need 3 generic filters. Oh, actually we could use 2, but I'm just going to go ahead and use 3. Okay, and then we need a random data source. Then we need set value events. sorry about that. Set value event. We need 1, and then we need 2 down here. Okay, so now we need variable data source. We need 2 variable data sources. One is going to be a destination, and one is going to be our source. Okay, so now let's set these bottom here to increase by 1. Event target is going to be this variable. Set this one to decrease by 1. And its target is going to be that variable. Set this to set. The value is going to be the random data source. The target is going to be this top variable. Okay, now all 3 of these generic filters need to be testing. Comparison value 1 is this top variable. Comparison value 2 is this bottom variable. Okay, so now what's going to happen is we need to set up these filters. So what happens is we're going to set up get the interval trigger. Every interval it's going to fire and go to that filter. Now that filter is going to check to see if these 2 numbers are the same. And if they are the same, then what we want to do is set them to a new number. So we're going to set the top number to a new number if it is the same. If it isn't the same, then we're going to check to see at this next filter. We're going to check to see if it's greater than. So if the bottom number is greater than the top number, then we're going to want to increase. If the top number is greater than the bottom number, then we're going to want to increase the bottom number until it equals the top number. If it's not, then we're going to decrease it till it reaches the top number. We don't need this other filter here, so we'll just ditch that. So we have these 2 filters. Okay, now this random data source we need to set to, you can reseed a little bit. We need to set the maximum number to be 255. Now 255 is an RGB value. This will be the red value. So it's not going to go any higher than 255. The interval is going to be 1. So we want to change that every tick. We want that picking a new number. So we're ready to go as soon as it grabs one. As soon as it's ready to grab one. Okay, so now what this does is sends an impulse, tests to see if this number, the top number, equals the bottom number. And if the top number does, then it picks a new random number for the top number, which will probably no longer equal. Then it sees if the bottom number is higher or lower than the top number, and it increases it to be the same number that number is. So what this is doing is it's counting. You see it picks a new number. This one counts to that number, and then it picks a new number when it reaches it. Okay, so now what we need to do is copy this 3 times, or twice, I guess. We need 3 copies of this for the red, green, and blue value. So lift it up a little bit. Okay, so that's red, green, and blue. Okay, so now we need a vector to put all those colors together. So we'll grab a vector. The first value is going to be red, which is going to be this variable there. This value blue is going to be here, which is the center variable, and the last variable is going to be the green. I'm sorry, green and blue. So the middle variable is green, last variable is blue. Okay, so now with your object, you're going to select your object, and we're going to make the material. The color object is going to be that vector. We want to turn the emission up a little bit. Alright, so now this should work. It should pick a random color and fade to it. Oh yeah, okay. So sorry, what we need to do is you need to reseed these variables because they're going to pick the same number all the time. All of them will, unless you reseed them. Okay, so now let's see if this works now. So, no, this does not work. So I guess, oh yeah, it does. There it goes. There it is. It was just stuck. Okay, so it picks random numbers. random, yeah, picks random numbers for the RGB values, and then it just goes from where it is to that value, and then goes to whatever value is next. It picks random colors, which sometimes isn't that random. It seems like it picks the same colors over and over. But, so, that's how you do it. If you want to darken it up a little bit, you can bring these values down some, because they might not, the higher number, so if you want to limit to like 175 or so, then it's going to pick kind of darker colors, because higher numbers in the 255 area are going to be lighter colors. So this kind of picks little darker colors. It's kind of not guaranteed. It's the emission too. You can turn the emission down on this object. And it'll be a little darker colors, a little more muted and stuff. But anyway, that's how you do that. So thanks for watching, and have a good time.